Week 2 of regionals is just around the corner and the pros have been hard at work perfecting their strategies. One of the more interesting things that I came upon during this week was that Americas are playing Darkstar Flex a lot more and with a lot more success compared to the other regions. Therefore, for today, we are first going to be jumping in game with Ripple Overdrive from week 1 of regionals, and then quickly summarize the main takeaways in my updated cheat sheet for the comp. We are going to be starting out here immediately with Lissandra 2. This is a prime hold, obviously, to be picking up on this spot. A lot of players might be angling it already, and we would ideally also be able to hold on to this Rek'Sai to pair together with a Cho'Gath. Speaking of which, he immediately comes here. Going to be giving up on that Veigar in this possibility to instead hold on to this reroll variant. A great comp to be considering for your safe top 4s, but we can see there's another player with Alessandra too, and there's another player with Alessandra, but you cannot see in the... well, you can. He has called out Cho'Gath in the chat already. We see that rod, we see a bow, we have that halves of Nashor's JG combo. Opting to hold on to Pyke over here instead of Poppy or Veigar. Leaving Poppy on Veigar is as a possibility. For example, we could lean into the Lissandra, Poppy, and Veigar reroll as well if you are in tempo spot, but that's more towards that Veigar variant. For our augment selection, concentration is a reroll augment. Well, in a sense, a reroll augment. It's a comp that's being explored more and more. The ideal cap, if I'm not mistaken, is playing around 3 conduit units. However, some reroll variants here around Zoe, Mordekaiser, Victor are appealing. However, those units tend to fall off in the later stages of the game. Prize Fighter would be great if we had a slam. However, our slams at the moment are not that appealing. It would be a Rage Blade. Does not translate too much into later stages of the game. Crown Guard, it's a good tank item if you have the rolls to spare, but if you're playing around this Lissandra, you probably do not have to. Therefore, we probably have to default money hungry. Could consider potentially playing more towards that like a fast 8, fast 9 cap. Just try to go from this into some form of a like an ASO line maybe. See what we can get offered. We do get offered spreading roots. Those can be considered as items on 2-1, especially when you don't have slams, and perhaps can give us a little bit more of a direction. Clear Mind is a tough augment to be playing around in lane game. Scaling is more into your fast, fast 9 boards, obviously, but getting there you have to be from a tempo spot as well with an item slam. And we high roll the Time Breaker and Darkstar emblems. This is absolutely insane, because already on level 5 we have the possibility of playing around 4 Darkstar. That gives us that lot of base stats onto our units, especially when we don't have these items. It's absolutely amazing. We can immediately level here 4-3 Time Breaker as well, so even if we are going to be losing, we're going to be picking up free deals that we can utilize to improve our board state or just make some gold. This is an absolutely insane high roll. You can see immediately we are playing in an encounter that gives 5 free rerolls. That's why all our players might be considering already rerolling, but now that we can utilize the free reroll, we're immediately able to pick up a Cho'Gath too. We're going to be quite strong and going to immediately also invest a remover here on stage 2. It's a play that you can definitely do if you are trying to make a strong board presence, and he's just simply going to be valuing this concentrated form of an AP damage around this melee, or perhaps because if we, for example, find a tier, we might consider making a Void Staff already. However, Protector's Vow is also a great way to be capping out these Darkstar lines, as for example, one of the variants you can do so is playing around Nunu, and Nunu just being a stall obviously loves the Protector's Vow with the... Really loves the Protector's Vow to be able to CC. Here the decision between a Kai'Sa and a Milio. Milio has the higher upside of obviously the resources if you're able to win. However, Kai'Sa would make a stronger board presence. And now the question is going to come down. Now the Paladin is going to decide whether we have a backline or a frontline slam to go in here, if we are going to be wanting to level for a backline or a frontline unit. Very unfortunate that we lost that first fight queuing into a very strong player, and we are unable to make 10 here at the moment. So for our god selection, we are playing in a Varus in an Echo game. Trico's shop. Well, we already have hit the Kai'Sa, and that would be... What other Tricos could be possibly fine? We could consider trying to move into more of a Shepherd board around this Lawi, but since we have this Time Breaker Emblem just fitting the Pantheon, and obviously he gives a Replicator, having playing around the Brawlers, it seems best, and I'm not exactly on top of my head sure what Tricos we would want, and using this as 3 gold could possibly be, since we are not even making an interest. A 4 cost after 3 rounds might be a little appealing. If our plan is still to be playing around the reroll variant, then we probably would be wanting to lean into Varus, but for a fast 9, this Echo is a lot better. And for our selection here, if we take yeah, I assume you're considering a tier because taking a belt is generally a good component. We could also opt to be slamming at Sunfire here, which is a great early game slam. Uh, trying to make a spear of Nashor's Tooth here would be that we would definitely need to be gambling for a JG, and the Darkstar line generally tends to cap more around these 80 items onto this what is it called, a Jin, right? But you can still be slamming Bard items or even a Karma items, which can provide you a decent mid game. And since you're playing around the Sounder, this transitions quite nicely. Making a Voice Staff here is completely fine if you're going to be capping around something like a Bard or even playing around Asol in the mid game or Karma. This Voice Staff is going to be absolutely amazing. Opted to go now here and level aggressively for that Mordekaiser. We are going to be quite poor. The thing with Darkstar is obviously you need to be playing it a little bit more like a Fast 9 comp, since the spike does come from that Jin, the Jin being the prime carry. However, since the comp emerged, this gap has been alleviated a little bit due to buffs to the Karma. Now, Kai'Sa did get hit, but Karma and Asol being a decent unit you can still be playing around is definitely a good variant to be considering to stabilize on level 8, especially without emblem, since that allows you actually to get the 6 Darkstar online. Without an emblem, you absolutely just must be chasing a Jin from pretty much a fast 9 spot. And early game tempo, obviously. Do get double rod. Now we could be considering Death Cap Sunfire, in my opinion, if you wanted to make the strongest tempo slams, and those would be absolutely insane for our board state. Our forecast comes in as a Kindred, not sure we can play around, but we're going to do Kindred pair. Alright. Going to still be opting to use our free rerolls here just to try to make the strongest board possible. And now that we've hit that Mordekaiser, we're definitely strong. Still rolling for what? Maybe, I mean, chasing. Okay, we have Milio pair, Kai'Sa pair, Pantheon pair. Okay, definitely justified rolls. If you see this many pairs, and especially with free rolls, you just should definitely use them in this kind of spot. Makes sense, and we can still make 10-20 here from the win. As with that aggressive level. Generally, in the Darkstar line, boxing lessons is something is great. Black holes are going to be double dipping your frontline units. The HP scales from the BR HP on your Darkstar units and buffing them up, and plus they're going to be receiving the boxing lessons buff. Electro Charge is not that bad for the same reasons either. A little bit more in the stall side, whereas Darkstar is more in the burst side. Group Hug, again, they are going to synergize with the black holes, but might make you would have to be playing around a strong frontliner. I believe, well, at this stage of the game, Group Hug might have a little bit more value than the boxing lessons, since we're going to be running on a 3 units. Second wind also is absolutely insane for these frontline centric things, and I believe it's probably the strongest pickup we could be considering right now. Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. I love second wind myself, but he loves boxing lessons. Playing for that higher cap here, immediately making the sense. Late game specialist. Now, we are again gold poor, and we would want to be looking to Lake at level 9, but we are on a streak. We want to be making our gold from the streak, and the boxing lessons has the highest potential to provide that for us right now. I have to give up on a Kai'Sa pair here as we pick up the Ezreal too if we are going to win, or maybe he is still going to be valuing the investment into the holding onto these pairs simply for the sake of potentially stringing together a streak. We see that there is a Master Yi, so we want to be positioning this guy Lissandra so that she can at least splash and plug that Edge of Time. This is one way you can definitely deal with these melee carries, especially in a 1-star. Q into the Warren is still an absolute menace. Has that sniper emblem there. He's going to opt to hold on so that the Kai'Sa sees that, well, if we are going to be making a level 7, then who would we ideally slot in level 7? Maybe a Vanguard unit, or for this Mordekaiser, or I don't know, something like a Zoe. We are holding on to these Leonas for a Vanguard slam right there, and she's just simply seeing that the Kai'Sa without an items at the 1-star is not going to be doing that much right now for our board, especially since we are also having playing around that AP damage Pike. Still, thankfully, Pike 1 does not assassinate our Lissandra there. We're going to be taking an easy win here against the Veigar player, who simply is lacking a little bit more on the frontline compartment. These emblems are just absolutely making our board absolutely insane. With 4th time breaker, we have so much attack speed for ourselves. Blessing of Speed would not have immediate value for ourselves, so if our plan is to be still playing around the streak, we'll be just picking up Champion Duplicator and pump out an upgrade since we have some pairs, and he's going to agree. Also, Varus, we talked about how for the Fast 9, for the Darkstar, obviously Echo is great, but obviously I just recalled Varus still synergizes with these black holes. It's actually very, very good to be having Varus for your for your black holes, essentially, like, you know, the HP scaling, double dipping. We're going to be having a lot of HP if we're going to line up with our Varus, and it's going to be nice to stall for our units. Use the duplicator to pump out Milio too. With this Dark Star emblem, he's going to be having so much stats, and the mana gen is also obviously coming from the extra attack speed from the time breakers. We are on the opposite side with the Master Yi, but now that we have upgraded our carry, we should definitely be fine. Also, we have that Pantheon too. Quite high roll of an opener, obviously, but also, so you could see his aggressive plays are what allowed him to string together so holy. We are checking the mod, but she doesn't even fit our board that nicely. So is this a high roll if we're hoping to hold on to it? But you can see aggressive plays, investing into the resources we have, and making sure that we have the, you know, you're holding on to these pairs so that we can actually string together a board. Sometimes players, you know, not exactly the case that we saw, but for example on 2-1, just sell off the rest of the units. Oh, wait, are we going to lose here? Oh, thankfully, against this 2 tanky Ego Illusions with the 2 tanky, Samir able to pick up a win. But for example, sometimes players have a couple of pairs and they're just opting to sell everything on 2-1 to make 10. How, and sometimes even with the direction they haven't established it, how are you going to then string together a good board? You're definitely going to be ending up on a 10 loss then, and well, not a 10 loss, but you're going to be lose streaking at least from that kind of a spot, and you're going to be generally having a tough time. And sometimes you're just simply playing that extra goal to either establish direction or actually holding on to these pairs or extra units that could be slotting to have the potential for string together a board. The TFT is a game of potential high rolls, and you have to be playing into those high rolls if you want to be securing wins, and that is how you do it. We're opting to now also go for a blue FGS slam instead of the IE. Obviously, it's considering that we are on the streak and Jin is quite far. Hey, we can double down on these AP items and utilize perhaps a Karma as a duo carry. We have picked up that Mighty Mech as well. Now, at this spot, we could just kill that sword. Now, Earths is something that I would definitely not be considering on 2-1, too much of an item and tempo investment, considering you're casting also a gold augment. Unless you are in Giga spot, I would not be picking up on 2-1, but on 3-2 or 4-2 is something that you might be considering. Now, we just killed that sword, and now we'll be gambling for a sword. Thankfully, we have the armory to sort it out, but again, we are on a streak, no immediate value. We will be, obviously, we are probably not going to be rolling too much right now. We're just going to looking to preserve lives. Therefore, something like a glass cannon can actually be quite appealing in this kind of spot. Our trade does not give damage jump. Our damage jump item only really is this Giant Slayer. And while you are capping around snipers who have inherent damage jump, Jin is far ways still away, and this 25% is not that bad since you're running only 2 sniper. Probably the best option right now, Heroic Grab Bag, if we really value that we need quite a lot of gold. Best Friends now is a very good augment with the recent changes to also provide magic resistance. Could get a little tricky with black hole positioning, but I believe black holes does not ruin this. In my opinion, you can just be placing 2 units, then a black hole and another 2 units, for example, in the same row. But he's going to value the combat power. The key to obviously succeed, as I will mention, with this Dark Star line is picking up strong combat augment. It's very strong in that way. Holding on, quite flexible on the roll down. Luckily find that Bard right now, so we do not need to be investing that much. Definitely, as you can see, he's valuing the holding onto this Morgana. Morgana, an absolutely amazing tank in the current meta. And we're going to be slotting in Bard, and we're going to have 4 Timebreaker plus Bard for potentially farming any form of resources right now. Again, truly enabled by this Timebreaker emblem and the way we were able to arrive there. But picking up another win here is absolutely insane. Even with this board we have right now. Obviously, Milia too shouldn't be underlooked, but still going to opt to roll here. I mean, being 0 gold here, as you're saying, I'm quite far away from level 9, but we definitely wanted to be securing this Karma in order to be putting in the 6 Dark Star and make an actually presentable board here. Hoping to go with the blue buff onto this Bard. Now, we do have 2 Conduit, and perhaps he's simply believing that the blue buff is going to be stronger. And has that innate synergy with the Death Cap, but I would have assumed that maybe Void Staff or a Giant Slayer might be providing a little bit more value in that form. Now we have possibility for a cash flow against the Duplicator. Duplicator doesn't have an immediate value for ourselves. He just like the board I did not exactly catch, but a cash flow could help us secure to getting that level 9, actually making that cap. So the question comes down to, we want Varus or Echo as our god. And since we have a free item, yeah, we have a free frontline item, we only have 1, actually Anomaly here would be quite appealing. Also can obviously afterwards be tossed onto any of the free damage units we have. Going to be picking up a Chain. So we can see we're definitely quite far away from these Jin items, obviously GS being the truly transferable one, but we do not have anti-armor. We do not have something like an IEDB. This is the absolutely amazing combo for him. But this Bard is going to be putting in a lot of work here. We can see that we have just so much frontline presence that we are actually still able to extend our streak with this high roll of a Bard. Might be a little more one in a generation kind of game, but TFT is a game where you simply have to be putting yourself in a spot to capitalize on these high rolls, right? Reason why you may say everyone might be piloting this kind of a game and securing a win from themselves from this kind of a spot. I highly disagree. You have to have made those plays. You have to have made those plays to string the streak this far together, to actually have this gold, to actually be able to capitalize here on these extra resources, for example, farmed. If you had misplayed a couple of 1 or 2 rounds in the earlier stages of the game, you would not be in this position right now. You would be probably too broke. You would not have been able to afford to take these combat dogmates and try to win out from here. Every minor decision compounds in TFT. We're going to be opting to now sort out the Jeweled Gauntlet Death Cap combo and utilizing this Karma as a duo carry. So definitely not considering Jhin as the highest potential cap right now, especially since we have this early Bard right now. Interesting, going to go for a binary value on our front line, simply due to how strong the Protector's Vow on this Nunu is and getting more attack speed for him, very evaluating getting that CC out as early as possible. And we're just going to be sitting here. We still need quite a bit of gold. We're extremely healthy, so we can be sucking at least a couple of rounds to make it to that level 9 for a little bit cheaper, as well as have actual gold to be rolling there. But we still are able to... We have opted to not greed anymore this 2 timebreaker, right? Wherever we transitioned our board, we opted to give up on it. Is evaluating that simply 6 Darkstar plus Bard is going to be quite strong, and we have also picked up a Tom Kench. I think we... Have we fielded it? No, we have actually opted to not go for a Tom Kench. We saw that he had it in planner earlier, but he's going to be keeping this Pantheon around for a little bit of attack speed from the 2 timebreaker here, instead of playing around the Tom Kench cap. And are we evaluating that we can actually hit Nunu in this lobby? It could be the case. We also have the Mighty Mech as a possibility, because otherwise we are looking a little bit grim on the frontline department. Unless we are able to at least get one of these tanks 2-star. To see that there's one Tom Kench player there, the Brawler Yi player, and there's a couple of Ramai. Alright, might be able to find this Nunu then. Something you have to be wary about. This line is generally quite flexible in form of what frontline units you're opting to go for. Just pick the correct, pick the according pair, and you should be fine. And now we could double down on the frontline item too, the Warmogs here. Obviously, Deadblade would be the obvious choice if you wanted to just simply start indexing onto these Jhin items. But since we are running binary value on the front line, we're going to be going there immediately, find this Jhin, have the possibility to make Mech 2, Jhin pair coming in, Nunu 2, this is absolutely amazing. And now we are going to be giving up, 2 Conduit is something you want to be keeping around so this Jhin can also cast faster. And picking up this Nunu 2 would ideally maybe transition some of the Timebreaker emblem off him now as he's our main tank, and get the Anomaly maybe on. But we're going to be running a little bit of a remover pickle right there. Still opting to hold on to these Aurelian Souls. Maybe he finds A Soul 2, is obviously could be considered stronger than the Bard one. But still we are holding onto these Blitzcranks as a possibility. Blitzcrank 2 is just absolutely a prime unit you can be considering playing around. You can see that he has never placed his black holes exactly on the edges, but still trying to position in a way that where they can draw aggro and actually benefit as the tanks. They cannot cast, and lots of your units' value is concentrated into their cast, right? So it's them just buying enough time for units to get even like the, okay, maybe not exactly Cho'Gath, but for example like a Mordekaiser, if he wasn't an itemized, just getting the single cast of him is going to provide a lot of value from this actual unit. Now it's time to play the game. Can we gamble and get ourselves an Elder Dragon and actually have the immense win-out potential? We have sacrificed our lives for a lot of econ, but we still are chasing some of these upgrades. Only a single copy of Bard in the top 4 due to the extreme early game tempo, but can we actually close this game out? We can see we picked up the Aurelian Soul 2 as a possibility to be slotting in right now, since we are so away from so far away from the Bard, and the items transition pretty much 1-to-1. Last item selection here, still have that anomaly there onto this Mordekaiser, and he has positioned in a way here. Very nice play by Gunning Gragas here. I simply just want to point it out, because how does your Aurelian just annihilate melee units? Well, you make them wrap, have the beam shoots all your melee units. Absolutely dead. He was aware, placed the Morgana here, where that we were busy slapping items, and now this Aurelian has to just go through a single target unit right there, and the Akali also has the potential to go for the backline. Did not exactly work out, so... And this is a close fight here against this Jinx 2-3, and she actually going to have the value, since due to this positioning Aurelian wasn't able to gain maximum value, he's able to pick up a win, and now we are pretty close on 1-5. Going to be finding that Blitzcrank 2 and opted to give up on this Nunu here, since we have an alternative for a frontline presence. Going to value a Protector's Vow, and this Anomaly can transition quite nicely onto there, but... Alright, so another interesting point to note here, he's going to value itemizing this Mordekaiser instead of the Mighty Mech 2 here, just simply due to the Darkstar buffs he received easy pickings here against CMB. Now that we have another strong duo carry on a line. And simply just cannot find these bards or Jins. When we high roll Jin 1 and we high roll the bard, but if you're unable to get to them 2-star, this is going to be hard to close out the game here against Gooning Gragas here. Now we have obviously the highest potential of the Kappan here, but he has that no scout, no pivot scaling. He's actually greeding to go to level 9 as he's definitely 2 lives again. He's able to make this nice play of just simply probably hover scouting this Morgana to be placing in front of the Mighty Mech, but now that we have this Blitzcrank 2, the fight is has become a lot closer and more in our favor. Now we find that Bard 2, find that Jin 2, it's spilled doom for you. We should be easy secure to win. Do not have free remover, so just simply, yeah, just toss something onto this Jin, toss the chain onto the mech for good measures, and see so we can position the Blitz into this Morgana. Absolutely lovely play done right there. Might lose a little bit Bard value, but hey, that's completely fine. We should have more than enough damage to be going through to this board. And did I speak too early? Now the Bard does get onto this Jinx just the last second before she ults, and we are able to secure ourselves a win. Still very close fight due to the insane item combination, the augment combination, getting that AD and then more AD from the focused fire, and this no scout, no pivot when he gets to this stage. So the game is an absolute menace. Also having that Varus buff right there, but extremely nice played game by Ripple Overdrive, showing how to capitalize onto these tempo spots and how you are able to adjust very flexibly around what your level 8, level 9 looks like onto this Darkstar board, and they actually the picture perfect spot to be playing this comp from. So let's summarize the main takeaways. Here we have my gigantic Darkstar Flex cheat sheet that I have updated from my previous video. And the main thing that has changed from before is that AP has become a lot more viable of an approach to the line, especially with the Karma buff. She can be utilized greatly as a duo carry, as we just saw into the game. And then you can utilize the last few items just to toss on the Jhin if you're able to 2-star him. And as such, also playing around at Lissandra into the early stages of the game is absolutely amazing. Otherwise, not too much has changed. Still, the way this line can compete with the other Fast 9 lines is by heavily indexing onto these combat and item augments to bridge that gap and have that early game tempo. Picking up one econ augment is completely fine, and with Morgana being now a 4-cost, you have more possibilities of how you can stabilize your level 8 roll down. Also Aurelian, as we saw there, is a great pickup, and the items between him and Bard pretty much transfer 1-to-1. This still pretty much is a burst-centric comp where you want to be blowing up your opponent's boards before others, especially when you're playing around at AD. If the fights go further than the second Jhin cast, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The main things to note here is that having 2 conduit is absolutely insane, both for the Bard and for the Jhin to be casting faster. Blitz is a great toss-in compared to before. Picking up Earth on 2-1 is something that I would not be doing, killing the tempo. And remember to not position your black holes on the edges, as they might not draw aggro. And still, whenever we are playing from that tempo spot on our level 8, we're looking to slide roll to pick up some frontline units, maybe toss in the Tom, Kench, Bard or 3 Timebreaker for extra resources. So once we make it to that level 9, we're able to string together a strong board and have the necessary resources, since we are investing in our augment picks into items and combat. However, still we can be very flexible in what variation we approach. If we, for example, see that Xayah might be less contested and we have a lot of bros, Kraken and Red Buff are the prime items to be considering playing Xayah around if you're tempering around those. Playing around Riven is still a possibility, especially if we have to stabilize on level 8. I've left Nami here as a possibility to be tossing in as well, since she simply fits in the board quite well, and sometimes you might be stuck on that level 8. A lot of ways to approach the line, a lot of ways to cap around it. There's probably more that I have not indicated. Just be flexible in your approach and try to make the strongest board with the least resource investment to make it to that level 9 and finally cap around that Jhin. And here I've also quickly tossed together how we can approach different variations. Here we have the main variations. We have Lysandre plus Cho'Gath reroll and Kai'Sa reroll are still possibilities to be playing in case you lack in that tempo and pick up early copies. General approach would be to go for Bard Cap, and Asol can be flexed as a possibility for your level 8. Then we have the Riven, Xayah, and No Emblem variants. Here are we listed the units that we cap, and generally going around still the Jhin, or in the AP lines we can also be considering Karma as a variant, or in AD Kai'Sa. And the core items that you want to be looking out for, which you're still going to be slamming for tempo primarily, and then seeing which items you have and what you can go for. As well as shout out goes to some adjacent lies such as Lysandre plus Veigar, if you have those Veigar and Poppy copies on No Emblem, as well as Ezreal Cho, which is a quite fun line to get that huge Cho'Gath going. And if you have the Ezreal, the double stacking makes the comp quite fun, as well as enabled through augments such as early learnings, no scout, no pivot. See if you have the spot and be very flexible in your approach. This is definitely a fun line to be considering, and definitely, as you can see a lot of success when perfected. I would like to thank you for watching. I hope that you learned something new, and I wish to see you in the next one. Have a good one.